Bracing for Florence, the hurricane is barreling towards the Carolina coast, putting major crops at risk and residents in danger. Republican Senator Joni Ernst sits on the Agriculture Committee and spoke with Bloomberg's chief Washington correspondent, Kevin Cirilli, about the government's preparations earlier.
I think the government is doing everything that they can possibly do at this point. And, of course, then any response after the fact will need to be immediate.
And with regard to additional funds, you'd be open to that should it warrant it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. We need to make sure that we're protecting our citizens and then caring for them in the aftermath.
Meanwhile, big agricultural hearing earlier today. How are you gauging how the president is negotiating with China, for example, on trade?
Well, I do think that the president is working very hard on the trade issues, and I always encourage him to do it sooner rather than later. We are starting to see a need in agriculture country where farmers are going to their banks. They're trying to re-up their leases, and they need a little certainty. So sooner rather than later, let's get these trade deals done. I always encourage the president to do that. With China, we know that an offer has been extended now for the Chinese delegation to meet once again with our American representatives, and we hope that they can come to a consensus very soon.
The president's saying $206 billion in additional tariffs. He's willing to pull the trigger on that. Good idea, bad idea? Your thoughts?
Well, what we are seeing, though, is that the Chinese send a lot more. They export a lot more into the United States. The Americans, of course, we don't import as much Chinese goods as they send to us. So they're running out of leverage from China's perspective. We still have more leverage to use with the tariffs. I don't always appreciate these tariffs. I'd rather see the deals get done, but I see that the president's using them as a tool.
Interesting that you're noting those economic indicators. A lot of economists saying that the U.S. does have the upper hand with China, Iowa in particular being the largest exporter in the U.S. of soybeans. Mm-hmm. Are you concerned at all with how the Chinese, while we might have the leverage against China, but how they might be targeting like sections like the soybean markets?
You bet. And I am concerned about that. And ever since the trade war started, we have seen some of our grains, the price go down in grains anywhere from 15 to 25%, with pork 25% decrease. So it's significant to us, and we are feeling that crunch and that pain in the Midwest.
Do you think that the aid that was extended to agricultural states, including to farmers in Iowa, has that eased some of their concerns as these negotiations have continued, or are you still worried about that?
It eases concerns. However, it's not what our farmers and ranchers want. They want trade, not aid. They don't like the fact that they will have to rely on a government program to help them through this year when they have an abundance of corn and soybeans. We're having record levels with our harvest this year. So it's important that we are getting these commodities overseas into new and growing markets rather than relying on the federal government to send us a check.
We were watching on the Bloomberg terminal. There's literally like a sorghum ship that's like been drifting in the ocean and back and forth. This has been going on. Switching gears to NAFTA, though, the Canadians are saying that there might actually that they might extend a new deal. The president has said he has a preference for bilaterals. Your concerns on NAFTA?
Actually, I think we'll be able to get it done, and we have already really sealed the deal with Mexico. That was done before Labor Day. We are hoping to bring Canada into that mix as well. I would rather see the NAFTA package as a whole, but as Congress, we have encouraged the president, if you can't get Canada involved, go ahead and do a bilateral agreement with Mexico. I do remain hopeful that we get NAFTA as a package done, though. We would love to see the Canadians come in as our partners once again.
Have you been given any indication and timeline in terms of when the China trade deal might get done and when NAFTA might get done? Do you have any?
We don't have a definitive timeline, of course. There are a lot of moving parts with these trade negotiations, but we do want to see NAFTA done in short order. And I think if we see that, we'll start to see prices come up again with our ag commodities. That will be really important. And then with China, it's a little tougher issue just because there are so many other things like intellectual property theft that's involved. It's not just goods. It's also about services, products, the designs that are being taken by China. We have to work through that.
All right, renewable fuel standard. What's the latest on this?
Right. We continue to push the president. I specifically push him on E15 year-round, getting the Reed vapor pressure waiver done so we can sell product and open up for consumer choice regardless of what month they are purchasing their fuel in. So I will be speaking to the president about this and pushing for that year-round waiver. We think that that's really important. We would love to see more transparency in the way the renewable identification numbers are used. We'd also like to see more transparency on how the small refinery waivers are being granted by the EPA. All of this should be no-brainer stuff.
The president has said that he said he agrees with you. So why has the acting director of the EPA not effectively?
Well, that is a really great question, and I'm going to press the president on this. He wants this deal done.
Right.
He needs it done. He has made a commitment to American farmers. He's made a commitment to the biofuels industry that he gets this done. He said he would support them.
And Mr. Wheeler, the acting director of the EPA, says that this should be potentially a quote-unquote package deal with refineries. I take it you disagree.
Well, I think there can be some gain by the refineries if they see that there's transparency in the way the renewable identification numbers are assigned, what the costs associated are. I think they can come out winners in this as well. By opening up E15 year-round, it will eventually bring those RIN prices down, and that will be very helpful for those refineries.